For 7-1 work together, we have quite a few tasks, 5 different tasks. The first one being creating the income statement heading. So income statement heading, first line, as always, is the name of our company, Hair Care Salon. Row 2, what are we creating? We are creating an income statement. Finally, row 3, it's always going to be the date. So this income statement is 4-month ended. May 31st, 20, and then 2 dashes to show that this could be the current year, whether we're doing this in 2019, 2022. So that is our 3-line heading. Next, we need to determine what accounts go into the income statement. So we have our revenue and expenses that go into the income statement. So I know that cash is an asset, so it's neither a revenue or an expense. So I'm going to do these assets as neither. Liabilities, that's neither a revenue or an expense. Capital and drawing, those are both owner's equities, so neither a revenue or an expense. Income summary, we haven't talked about that yet, so that's neither. It's not a revenue or an expense. Sales, that's our only revenue account, so I mark that as revenue. Advertising expense, that's an expense. Cash short and over is an expense. Insurance expense, miscellaneous expense, supplies expense, and utilities expense. So we are going to include on our income statement the revenue and expenses. So now we just organize those, and that's what we are going to include in our income statement. So we have our worksheet here, our completed worksheet in Chapter 6 that we created and showed the amounts that go in the income statement and the balance sheet. Everything above income summary went to the balance sheet. Everything below went into the income statement. Now we're going to take those balances exactly as they are and put them into our income statement. So our account balances, our account titles are already in there. So now we just need to put our account balances. So you're going to go back and forth between our worksheet up here. So our sales amount, $5,800. Remember, totals go in the right column. Since we don't need to add multiple sales, we can just put that total, $5,800, in the right column. Then we need to get all the balances for our expenses. So all of our expenses here and the coordinating balances into our income statement. These are all coming straight from our worksheet. All of our expenses, all of those from the worksheet into our income statement. Now you need to total those numbers up. Our total of expenses, starting from $750 plus 3 plus 610 plus 167, 540, and 300. You should get 2,370. And that was the first part. That's our revenue and our expenses on the income statement. Next task we have is to calculate our net income or net loss. Good thing is, it looks like we have more revenue than we have expenses. So we're going to have a net income, which is always good. So how we calculate that, we would take 5,800, our revenue, the money brought in, minus 2,370, which is our expenses, the money that went out. So we are left with a net income of $3,430. Now that we have our net income in there, we have our completed income statement. Now we need to do our percent of sales. So remember, every financial ratio is calculated by dividing by total sales. So 5,800 divided by itself. So 5,800 divided by 5,800 leaves us with 100.0. Notice that the instructions tell you to round to the nearest 0.1%. So 100, we would want to list as 100.0. Our next ratio is we want to take our total expenses, 2,370, divided by always our sales amount, 5,800. So our percentage would be 40.9, since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, 86, that would round that 8 up to a 9. So 40.9%. We're going to do the same thing, 3,430, which is our net income, divided by 5,800. And we are left with 59.1%. Here is a double check to make sure that your math and to double check that your rounding is correct. Add 40.9 plus 59.1, and we're left with 100. These two ratios at the bottom should always add up to 100. So that is 7-1 work together, a lot of tasks, ultimately ending with our vertical analysis.